So guys, let's talk about InZOI. You might have seen it floating around Steam, maybe checked out the trailer, looked at the screenshots and thought, is this what The Sims would look like if it came out in 2025? Well, you're not alone. But then you probably saw the mixed reviews on Steam, clocked a $34.99 price tag, and wondered, is it worth it? Well, let me tell you, I've spent hours wandering around the virtual city of Bliss Bay, controlling a digital person who sometimes floats near chairs, steals money without actually touching anything, so I've got some thoughts. So, without further ado, welcome to Big EK Gaming. This will be my first impressions review of InZOI, the game that wants to be The Sims, but somehow also feels like a K-pop music video meets social experiment. So guys, let's jump straight in. What is InZOI? InZOI is developed by InZOI Studios out of South Korea, published by Krafton. Yes, the same Krafton that brought us PUBG, and it's being built in Unreal Engine 5. It launched earlier this year in March 2025 and is currently in early access on Steam. Here's the setup. You play as an intern at an AR company, a VR firm managing virtual people called ZOI. Your job? Keep the neighborhood balanced through a karma system while directing these ZOI through life. So far, the game has two main open worlds. Darwin, a dense soul-inspired metropolis, and Bliss Bay, a sunny coastal city inspired by Santa Monica, California. There is a third map due, a Bali-style resort town coming as a free DLC soon. In the game, you can control a family of ZOI, customize characters and homes, edit the city in real time, share designs with the Canvas tool. You can even use AI to generate patterns and furniture, and yes, the game supports motion capture for facial expressions and body movement if you're fancy like that. Sounds promising, right? Well, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the weird. First off, credit where credit's due. The game looks absolutely amazing. Unreal Engine 5 really shines here. Compared with The Sims, it feels like a generational leap. The lighting, the character detail, the weather effects, all really solid. But, and there is a but, the optimization does need work. My main issue was the constant pop-in of objects. Whether I played with the settings on low or ultra, the pop-in was always noticeable. Benches, trees, even buildings would pop in when I was walking around the city. This happened to objects close to me and not just in the distance. Textures also seem to get blurry for no reason on some objects. It's fair to say that optimization is still on somebody's to-do list over at InZOI Studios. There is a whole host of bugs as well. While many animations are crisp and clean, some do need that extra polish. That said, it is early access, so I do have to give it some leeway. But I was definitely reminded that it was in early access every time my ZOI sat next to a chair instead of on it, or stood 6 feet away from a parking meter while I tried to steal from it. So let's move on to the overall feel of the game. The game opens up with a company run by cats. I'm not even joking, cats. What purpose they serve, I'm yet to find out, but it feels to me that the developers wanted to go for that cute and cuddly aesthetic and thought, well, everyone loves cats. To get into the world, you create your ZOI and then you need approval from a cat using a tablet. Yes, a cat using a tablet. But once you're in, the cats mostly disappear. They show up occasionally in menus, but the overall vibe of the game is clear. It's very unapologetically South Korean, from fashion to the UI to the background music, full on K-pop energy. Character creation though, absolutely brilliant. You get deep control over features, body types, clothing. The level of detail is impressive and easy to use. You are able to change almost every feature of the ZOI's face and body by choosing from a list of pre-made models or by clicking on parts of the face or body to move things around or change sizes, etc. You are also able to choose your ZOI's main traits and desired life. From being a dreamer to being an adventurer, the choice is yours. For those who like to go the extra mile, you can even customize clothes with your own AI generated patterns. So if you're going for a certain look for your ZOI, the possibilities are literally endless. So let's talk about the gameplay, as this is where InZOI does start to show its cracks. Yes, it's very much like The Sims. You have a character to manage, you keep track of their basic needs, food, sleep, bathroom habits, etc., but with slightly more freedom. Straight away, you can leave your house, explore the city, and interact with the world in a third-person view or point and click. While you can explore the city straight from your house, the main mode of transportation when you first begin is the local bus service, which does include loading screens and acts more like a fast travel system. I did notice taxis around the place or parked outside my house, but you couldn't seem to interact with any of them. But once you do get out to explore the city, here's the thing, it is pretty empty, especially in Bliss Bay, which I spent my hours in. So once you've hit the arcade, gone to the park, played basketball, or sat by the ocean, there's not much else going on. There's only so many times you can ride the roller coaster before even that gets boring. Many buildings that you enter don't have much going on either. Many shops around the city are fake, with fake shop fronts, and you can't go inside them. The ones you can go in, you can examine the shelves of the shops, but you can't buy items directly from them. There are terminals you can use in the shop to buy things from, but it kind of takes you out the immersion when you do click examine on a shelf and your Zoid just stands there staring at the shelf for no reason. Overall, the city feels more like a movie set than a living world. It just felt a little hollow and yet finished. But again, it is in early access, so maybe more features will come as the game updates. Now for the game control. The one thing that stood out, and not in a good way, was the X-ray vision as I like to call it. Even before entering a building or a home, you can see straight into it. Even places that are locked or off limits to your Zoi, like a neighbour's house for instance. I found that this took you out the immersion of the game, especially when walking down the street and it looks like a building just disappears or you can see straight through it to the other side. It would be better, in my opinion, to only have the walls dropped once you enter the building. That way you maintain the immersion of the game. Then there's the pathfinding. While I did enjoy being able to control my Zoe in third person using the W, A, S and D keys on the keyboard, in small spaces I found I kept getting stuck on furniture. I would often find my Zoe would just stop, and it was only when I rotated the camera around that I saw I was stuck on a railing or a piece of furniture. This seemed to happen more often than not. And shop doors as well, they only open on one side. When I was trying to enter a shop I would get stuck on an invisible wall, only to find that the door only opened on one side. Also, I would find that the camera angles would make the camera appear on the other side of a wall, so I could no longer see what was happening. This seemed to happen quite a lot, especially in small spaces. But it might just be me, but I doubt it. Let's move on to jobs and other ways to make money. Jobs are available, but they're not exactly thrilling. You're usually just stuck watching your Zoid type on a computer or tick off repetitive tasks. Jobs can be found using your smartphone, and I found a nice job at a fairground. I thought I'd be manning the rides or helping a stall or help running the amusement arcades. Instead, I was an admin, working on a computer all day. I would be given tasks to complete that would appear at the start of the workday, which in my case consisted of me watching my Zoe work on a computer for about 8 in-game hours. I do feel like maybe a mini game or a skip work option would go a long way, as this just becomes boring fast. I found it did seem to go on forever and that my Zoe would complete the task fairly quickly, especially when I sped time up, but then I would just find myself wandering around the building looking for something else to do. During the game I got bored and decided I wanted to try out the crime mechanic, so I went to steal from a tip jar at a hot dog stand. But you will meet the police if you do this, and let me tell you, their response time is instant. No chance to run, no option to apologise, just straight to jail. Once in jail, you get chores you have to do. In my case, I had to do some sewing, I had to mop the floor of the cell. I did have a cellmate, but I couldn't interact with them. But once you finish your task, however, you're stuck in your cell until someone comes to release you. I found that sleeping and speeding up time help, but I'll still think twice about stealing from a tip jar in future. Now let's talk about your Zoe. As mentioned earlier, your Zoe has the usual needs: hunger, sleep, hygiene, social, etc. But there are also wants. Like my Zoe kept wanting me to eat cotton candy or buy an umbrella for instance. They pop up randomly and disappear if you don't do them quickly enough. Completing these tasks will get you points to spend in the Meow store. Here you can buy donuts to fill your need bars such as sleep or eat. A feature I did like was the way you can toggle free will and autonomy on and off right from the main screen, rather than via the options menu, which is a nice touch. Sometimes it's just fun to sit back and watch them do their thing. Most of the time though, I found them watching telly, scrolling on their phone, or playing handheld games, which to be fair is how I spend most of my days. So this moves us on to relationships. When I finally managed to go on a date with a Zoe, I arranged this via the calendar app, which was quite good. You set the date, the time, the location, which is a good feature. When I arrived, however, I was given some more tasks to complete for the date, but she spent most of the time in the bathroom talking to herself in the mirror, so I never managed to complete any of them. After the date though, things did get a little weird. I literally went on one date with this Zoe, and suddenly I was getting messages like, I love you and can't live without you. Seemed a bit fast, love. We hadn't even shared a pizza yet. You can woohoo, sorry, set the mood, but it's all implied. Nothing graphic as I expected. I haven't tried marriage or kids yet, but apparently it is possible. But the fact that the Zoes come on so strong did kind of put me off taking the next step to getting married, I will be honest. Conversations in the game are strange. Some of the choices are pretty standard, but you do get some odd ones. One second you're describing the wonders of coffee, the next you're telling someone you just met we should drift apart. A total roller coaster. Not to mention there are emoji options to choose from, which I didn't quite get. Now here's where the game shines again. Building. It's very much like The Sims 4, but with way more customizational options. You can choose from a pre-built house, use a design schematic, or just start completely from scratch. There's lots of furniture options to choose from, and you can change the colour and textures on almost every object to fully design your room to a matching colour palette. You can even design custom furniture or use AI to create objects and textures too. City editing is also cool. If you're walking down the street and feel it needs more detail, you can add objects at no extra cost. For example, while I was walking around, my Zoe needed the toilet. I added a toilet into the middle of the street for my Zoe to use. No walls, just out in the open, very classy. You can also use the Edit City feature to change the overall feel of the city. You can replace the local trees and bushes to give the city a new overall feel. You can even edit the local animals that you find about the place, like adding pandas, for example. So, how do you travel around the city? Until you get a car, as I mentioned, the main way to get around is a bus. There are bus stops everywhere, which is great. But as I mentioned, this acts as more like a fast travel tool with loading screens. But when you do access the map via the bus, it only seems to show the bus stop names and not what's actually nearby. It doesn't show any points of interest. So you kind of have to remember which one is closest to, say, the arcade or wherever it is you're headed. However, you can just go into the map on your smartphone, find the location, right click and say go here. The Zoe will then automatically find its own way there, even if using the bus is needed. The one thing I did find, if you click one of the W, A, S or D keys whilst on the way, your Zoe will just stop. It is hard to get to locations manually unless you know the way, as there's no minimap available. Eventually, however, you can buy a car starting at $10,000, and yes, you can drive it yourself manually. But the controls are a bit twitchy, the camera's awkward, and half the time I felt as if I was driving drunk with no GPS. Due to not having a minimap, it was hard to keep track of where I was. You can set your Zoe to drive to a location, but like the bus, this does include a loading screen. Once at the destination, your car will vanish and go back home, but don't worry though, you can go back on your map on your phone, click a location to drive to, and your car will reappear. I do think though, putting a minimap into the game would make manual travel a lot easier. This definitely needs to be a feature in future updates. So just moving on to the smaller features, which are actually really well done. Using your phone, you can access an online shopping app very much like Temu, which lets you order things like food or flashlights or things for around your house. And this is a good feature because rather than them arriving instantly like in build mode, they're actually delivered to your door the next day. I came home from work and there was a parcel on my front doorstep, so it kind of keeps the realism going. Weather changes dynamically. Your Zoe will shiver in the rain, so good luck finding an actual umbrella to buy. I did actually get a text message to say a severe rainstorm was coming, and it advised me to go to a local corner shop to buy an umbrella, but I couldn't find a shop anywhere that sold one. You also carry a rucksack for storing snacks and drinks and laptops and gaming consoles and so on, but using them requires manually selecting the item, which does slow things down. For instance, when I wanted to get a can of Coke to drink out of my bag, I had to click on it to get the can of Coke into his hand, rotate the character and then click on the can of Coke in his hand and tell him to drink it, rather than just having an option to drink straight from the rucksack. But it's the little things that do show promise. Another small feature was your clothes getting dirty. So yes, you do have to wash your clothes. The only problem I found with this was rather than your clothes gradually getting dirty throughout the day, they would just suddenly turn dirty like you just rolled in a pile of manure. This then involves going home, accessing your washing machine and cleaning your clothes. I think it would be more realistic if they just got dirty as the day went on. So, in conclusion, is InZOI worth it? If you're looking for a polished sim alternative right now, probably not. But if you're curious and like seeing how weird and ambitious these life sims can get, then it's definitely interesting. The graphics are great and probably the biggest selling point. The system does have some depth, but it's got a long way to go. But it's missing the spark that makes the world feel alive. But remember, it is still in early access, and if the devs do keep pushing updates, this could turn into something special. But right now, though, I'm not sure I can recommend that $34.99 price tag, so if it is ever on sale, I'd maybe suggest giving it a go. Otherwise, maybe wait for some future updates, and I will maybe update this review later down the line once the updates have come out. So that concludes my review of InZOI. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please drop a like and maybe hit that subscribe. And do let me know down in the comments if you've experienced InZOI, or if there's anything I've missed that you want me to cover, or if there's any other games you'd like me to suffer through so you don't have to, please do let me know. I've been Eric, this is Big EK Gaming, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.